I'm Rio, and this is Rio's Experimental Archaeology. I'm an archaeologist in the American Southwest. Welcome to the channel. In today's episode, we're pit firing and putting a diverse set of micaceous pottery to the test, including 2 lidded bean pots, a personal drinking pitcher, and 2 mugs, one burnished and one unburnished, crafted specifically to collect pilot data on surface porosity. We're not just firing pottery, we're exploring thousands of years of technological continuity, dismantling the misconception that ancient utilitarian wares are somehow primitive by demonstrating the advanced material science required to master the craft. This pottery firing follows a 7-step protocol. Digging the pit. Primary fire and preheat. Loading the vessels and the cover sherds. Secondary fire. Introducing organic material at critical moment before smothering to carbon blacken the vessels. Smothering and maintaining a reduction atmosphere. And unearthing the final results. Woo! Look at that black shine! I am seeing an incredible... Woo! That's looking better than I had hoped. As much fun as pit firing pottery is, first we have to rewind back to the workbench to show you how these pots are actually formed. Now that we are finally back in the pottery studio, let's have a quick look at some of the micaceous clay vessels I crafted before I show you the process of coil and scrape crafting a micaceous clay cooking vessel. The clay I will be using is the mica red clay, available from newmexicoclay.com. I will also be using a puki, available from the same website. I added approximately 20% temper, measured by pressing pliable clay into a measuring cup lined with a cloth, creating a puck of clay of a measurable volume. The pots I will be firing in this video are this large micaceous clay bean cooking pot with a lid that rests upon a lip right below the rim and 2 handles. This is very similar to the pot I will be demonstrating making in this video. This video is not a lesson on the coil and scrape method. I will simply be providing tips and tricks. I would also like to open it up for a community discussion about how the methods presented in this video could be improved upon. So please comment below if you have any suggestions about how this process could be improved. Now let's finally get started by rolling out a slab. High in the mountains of northern New Mexico, ancient Precambrian schists, formed over 1 billion years ago, slowly weathered into rich, micaceous clay. Defined by its sparkling flakes, this ceramic tradition represents an unbroken line of indigenous craft and culinary innovation. Carried forward from ancestral Pueblo potters to the historic and modern traditions of the northern Tiwa and Jicarilla Apache. As far back as the Basket Maker 3 era, nearly 2,000 years ago, ancestral pottery traditions across northern New Mexico and the San Juan Basin were crafting robust cooking wares, like Sambrito Utility. These vessels were built specifically to withstand daily cooking over open flames and coals, often exhibiting heavy striations and deep soot blackening from years of cooking. A close look at this deliberate material selection reveals that these utilitarian cooking wares were anything but primitive. While glittering on a pot surface is striking, potters selected this clay for exceptional thermal shock resistance. During cooking, the base is blasted by intense, open flames, while the upper walls stay relatively cool, creating massive internal thermal stress. Mica and clay belong to the same mineral family, phyllosilicates, characterized by flat, hexagonal sheets. During coil and scrape construction, the potter aligns these microscopic platelets into a unified matrix. After alignment, the platelets slide, overlap, and mesh, acting like flexible scale armor that absorbs thermal stress without cracking. In contrast, angular tempers like quartz sand disrupt these flat sheets, creating concentrated stress points where cracks can form under heat. This exceptional durability was vital not just for cooking, but for traveling. For semi-nomadic groups like the Jicarilla Apache, this resilience allowed ceramic cookware to survive transport across mobile lifeways, defining the myth that mobile cultures couldn't maintain rich pottery traditions. Beyond heat management, unglazed micaceous cookware actively alters food chemistry. The porous, alkaline ceramic body neutralizes harsh acidic acids in foods like beans and tomatoes, imparting an earthy, natural sweetness impossible to replicate in modern metal cookware. Using micaceous clay was no accident. It required deep, empirical knowledge of local geology, specialized processing, and a precise understanding of thermal stress mechanics. Calling these traditions primitive flattens thousands of years of innovation, erases the crafter, and undervalues indigenous science. Modern potters use various firing methods to achieve distinct finishes. In this project, I'm conducting a reduction firing, introducing organic matter the moment before smothering the pit to carbon-blacken the clay. While most of the vessels are burnished, I left one unburnished to collect pilot data on the impacts of burnishing on surface porosity. That sure was a lot of work to make all of these vessels. As promised, I have the 2 lidded bean pots, my personal drinking vessel, and 2 mugs, one that has only been scraped and one that has been stone burnished to a fine polish to see if that burnishing does anything to affect surface porosity. Really love these pots, really excited to get out there and fire them, and I cannot wait anymore, so let's do it. It's time for our first step in our 7-step sequence, digging the pit. I've got the pots laid out as they will be inside of the pit fire, so I know approximately how big I want to make my pit. Now that I got my hole dug, why don't I show you it up close? It's the biggest pit I've ever dug, because these are the tallest and most pots I've ever tried to reduction fire. There it is. It's a short little shovel for scale. It's about 35-40 centimeters tall, and that's based on I wanted the highest part of my vessel to be below the surface of the ground for reduction. Now that we have the pit dug, it's time for the second step: primary fire and preheat. It's been raining, so I hope this fire takes off good. And with the rain, the sediment will be pretty damp for smothering too. I'm on the second step of our pit firing sequence: preheat and primary fire, where I'm preheating the pots by moving them and rotating them to try to drive all of that remaining moisture that's inside of the pots out. Now I want to mention that I did cheat and I put these pots in the oven the night before to help increase my chances of surviving the firing. It's time for the third step in our pottery firing sequence: loading the vessels and the cover sherds. First, we need to load the kiln furniture. Whew! Cover sherds are the unspoken hero of a reduced carbon blackening experiment like this. Without them, falling ash and coal from the overhead firing would inundate the gaps between the pottery, smothering the atmosphere. Instead, these pieces act as a shield, protecting the vessels from debris and creating the controlled, localized environment needed to bind black carbon to the clay. The secondary fire is the fourth step of the sequence. For large pit firings like this one, I prefer a log-cribbed stack over a teepee-design fire stack. It is important to ensure that the first row of perpendicular branches, the stringers, extends fully over the pit and above the pots. The next row, the stretchers, is placed across the stringers. From there, I build it up in alternating layers much like this, making sure to close up any major perimeter gaps. I like to archive my pottery firings as time-lapse videos. The secondary fire often needs a smaller fire to be lit on top of it to ignite. We've already discussed the critical role cover sherds play in creating a microclimate. Equally important for protecting and blanketing the vessels is letting the fire burn down to an even layer of glowing coals deposited directly over those sherds. This seals the pots inside a controlled, isolated pocket, sandwiched safely above the primary heat and tucked right under the blankets of the cover sherds and coals. The critical moment to smother is while the coals are still glowing red hot and there are no active flames. It's finally time for step 5 and 6 of this firing. Introducing organic material at critical moment before smothering to fire blacken the pots and smothering the pots. For the organic material, I have some charcoal and hickory blended pellets that I picked up at Tractor Supply Co. And I've prepared a few buckets of dirt to help me smother as soon as they go on. Now this is a 10-pound bag. Is this a lot? Is this a little? I don't know. I'm gonna use it all probably, and we'll see how it goes. All right, this is where the rubber meets the road. I think that's a lot. Time to smother before they catch on fire. It's so cool. I can hear a fire raging underneath this. Whew. It's a lot of work. It's really hot. Gonna drink some water. Let it reduce in that reduction atmosphere for 3 or 4 hours. We're on the 7th and the last step, unsmothering and seeing the final results. I am so excited to uncover these cover sherds and see what we have underneath. If you've been enjoying this so far, please remember to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get in there and let's see if this micaceous clay got carbon blackened. I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this experiment for a long time, and the final results are right here. Woo! I always have a hard time not rushing myself. You know, if you rush yourself, you make mistakes, so. Woo, look at that black shine. I am seeing an incredible, woo, that's looking better than I had hoped. Okay, that looks silver. Oh, that's so beautiful, wow. Oh my gosh. They look like they're made out of silver. Okay, what should I pull next? I say the smaller bean pot. Really excited for that one. Wow, that is shiny. Okay. Looks like the little mugs are next. There's a lid. I did not expect for it to come out this good. The big boy. Now that is what I call a successful firing. I would call that an incredibly successful pit firing and carbon blackening. Preliminary results don't show any cracks, and everything rings like a bell. If you've been enjoying this firing, please remember to like and subscribe. Our next step in this project is to get home and run a surface porosity test on the burnished and the unburnished mug. So stick around and we'll catch up with you back at the workbench. We're back at the workbench. The next step is the cold water absorption test, adapted from ASTM standards to test the surface porosity of the burnished and the unburnished mugs. The dry mugs were weighed with a kitchen scale like this, will be submerged in water for 24 hours, and will be weighed again. This completely removes the evaporation variable. Since burnishing compresses the clay platelets, I hypothesize that the burnished mug will have a lower absorption rate and porosity than the unburnished mug. Nearly 24 hours have elapsed with the mug submerged. The next step of the experimental procedure is to remove the mugs from water, quickly dry them with a dry cloth, let them sit for about 30 seconds, give them a quick shake to get any remaining moisture off, and then weigh 3 times in a tarred scale. We'll start with the unburnished mug first, which weighed in at 696 grams dry, so... Okay. Don't want to get the scale wet, so I'll set it aside. Air dry for approximately 30 seconds. Tar. 789. Time to get started on the burnished mug. The dry burnished mug weighed in at 700 grams. Okay, time for the final results on the burnished mug, which weighed in at 700 grams dry. After being submerged for 24 hours, 789. Let's go over the results. The unburnished mug gained 13.5% its weight during the water submersion test, while the burnished mug gained 12.7% its weight during the water submersion test. That's a negligible 5 grams of difference. Although burnishing compacts the clay surface and slows down off-gassing, it does not significantly alter the porosity of the underlying clay matrix. From a human perspective, burnishing is a lot of time and energy with little functional improvement. Keep in mind this is just a pilot project, and we've only begun to scratch the surface. Next, I wanted to talk about cover sherds, because I believe they were key to this successful carbon blackening firing. You'll notice on the inside a thick carbon blackening, while it's considerably more patchy on the outside. What I believe happened is I added the organic material before smothering. I smothered, and then that carbon dense smoke was pushed through all of the coals past the cover sherds, and it sat in that little controlled microclimate under the kiln furniture exactly as is supposed to happen. That really highlights the importance of cover sherds in creating a little controlled environment that lets fumes in but keeps large debris from falling in and keeping that carbon from attaching to the pots that you're trying to smother. I sealed this pitcher with liquid quartz and have been drinking from it every single day. And I swear it's been making me feel happier and healthier. If you're interested in purchasing a mug like this, please comment below and it will help give me the inspiration I need to get my Etsy up and running. Now, as for future projects, we're going to take these larger bean pots into the woods and seal them using ancient methods over a campfire, and then eventually we'll be cooking on them. A project I have been working on is replicating Sunset Red, the local Sinawa Alameda Brownware diagnostic sherd. I've made a 23-minute video discussing the Sinawa, so please go ahead and watch that. I'll leave it here linked at the end to get ready for when that video's ready. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe.